So Eli Roth's Thanksgiving has been out 1 year now. So 1 year later, how does this movie hold up? Well, in this video today, I'll break it all down. I'll talk about the gore, I'll explain the ending, and we'll talk about the big reveal at the end. All right, let's do it. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Mad Blood and welcome to Thanksgiving Explained. Like I said, in this video, I'll be breaking down everything. Plus, I'm gonna give you some details that I think will really make you think about the reveal at the end of this movie, because I think there's more to it than most of us think. If you're new around here, though, I talk about movies every week on this channel, so make sure you subscribe if you're into that kind of thing. The movie opens to the sound of breathing on Thanksgiving in Plymouth, Massachusetts, with a Black Christmas-style POV shot outside of a suburban house. But don't you worry, it's just Sheriff Eric Newland out looking for something golden brown, about 15 pounds with no head though, he says. Ah, look at this, we got a funny guy on our hands.
Wow, you baked this?
Yeah, you know, for a single guy, I know my way around the oven.
Now I see why Sidney Prescott took a liking to the Dempsonator. Next, we cut to the Wright family who's breaking bread, and Dad's telling us that his Walmart-style store called Wright Mart's gonna be open on Thanksgiving for the first time ever this year. But he kind of hedges his decision by blaming it on the future evil stepmom, his fiancée Kathleen. At Wright Mart, though, things aren't so chill because apparently all these people are waiting outside Wright Mart because the first 100 customers will get a waffle iron, I guess, because, you know, America!
Bunch of goddamn morons.
And yeah, of course, this is an Eli Roth movie, so we gotta meet our dumb, obnoxious teenagers who are definitely gonna get cut the hell up. Well, after we do that, they also head to Wright Mart, which is definitely a terrible idea. But we do meet Ryan here, who's thirsting after Jessica, whose character will get a little bit more important kind of as the story goes along. After some hilarious New Englanders basically replacing the word fuck with every other word in the human language, we then get this human stampede, which is just all kinds of craziness. People's necks are getting sliced open, and it's just wild. But of course, this moment's making fun of and is where you can see American capitalism and consumerism thrown into just this giant blender, and this is the bloody-ass smoothie that can come from it. But most notably, Jess's boyfriend Bobby, the star baseball player, and the girl from earlier, the lady from earlier, gets ran into by a shopping cart and then gets her scalp completely torn off, which puts Sheriff Eric Newland way over the edge, and he just goes ahead and ends the shenanigans by shooting his gun through the roof. After the 13-minute opening, we cut to 1 year later where Wright Mart, Fight Mart videos have now gone viral. Well, so on top of that, apparently the Wright family's been donating to charities and stuff and trying to just kind of get some good publicity for once. But Bobby, who had a promising baseball career, now his career is completely ended, so I'm sure he's devastated about that. Plus just, you know, all of the other people that you can't really make up for with money who, you know, died in brutal ways. And this whole thing obviously is here to set up quite a few potential motives and red herrings for the rest of the movie. Speaking of potential red herrings or killers, the new deputy at the diner just straight up admits he could get used to wearing the John Carver outfit. We also find out that Bobby and Jessica basically have not talked at all since the incident a year ago at Wright Mart, and now apparently Bobby's back in town. On top of that, all of the friends who were at Wright Mart that night are suddenly getting tagged in an Instagram post from an account named The John Carver. It's a table set for Thanksgiving with their name tags and a caption saying the table is set. Oh, that is not good for any of you. Oh, and that guy Ryan is now dating Jessica, by the way. Oh, and is that John Michael Myers Carver, by the way? Oh, wait, no, sorry. I just got, that kind of mixed up there. For some reason, that shot of John Carver just, kind of looked a little bit too familiar. Then we cut to somebody checking on the old Wright Mart footage from last year, pausing on the waitress and also sharpening his axe. Oh boy, and yup, we see next that she happens to also be alone and closing up the diner, which is not going to be good for her. And one thing we definitely learn here is that John Carver is going to be pretty creative with his kills in this movie. He dunks her head in the sink so he can stick her face on the freezer, which looks painful as hell. She's then able to somehow lock herself in the office, and then suddenly she just kind of thinks, okay, I've waited enough time, now probably the coast is clear. She goes outside, but in her purse she can't find her car keys because, John Carver's got the keys. John Carver then chases her to the dumpster where she she jumps in, but not before the lid then cuts her in half? What just happened? Two things here though. So this kill in particular probably got one of the biggest reactions in my theater that I was in. I mean, because you can see her insides and stuff. It's just all kinds of gnarly. And second thing, what exactly was her plan here? Jump in the trash, then just get killed by his axe or something? All right. Anyways, like Michael Myers, apparently John Carver also likes to display his victims, which he does right here on top of the Right Mart sign. That can't be good for branding, right? At school though, the friends now notice that this John Carver account has now tagged them in a post showing off the dead body at Right Mart. After telling the cops about the Instagram stuff, Jess then runs into Bobby and she says, "Oh, I saw you yesterday at the diner." And Bobby then says, "Oh no, it can't be true because I just got in this morning." Which of course just makes you think, okay, is he just saying that to cover up the fact that maybe he just cut someone in half last night? Well, I guess we'll see, but it's just another solid way that Eli Roth twists and turns the story to keep you guessing about the killer in this movie. Bobby then notices that something seems a little bit wrong with Jess. Well, other than the recent dead body that they found at her dad's store, you know, that whole thing. Well, come to find out, Jess admits that her future stepmom apparently was worried about bad publicity for the store, so she went in and just went ahead and just destroyed all the surveillance footage from the previous year with the whole incident at Right Mart. Jess, though, says that her dad has some backup footage at home, so she wants to go home and kind of look over the footage. And then clear as day, basically telling us who the next victim will be, we just go ahead and zoom in on a picture of Tim Dillon's character, who, if you remember, was one of the security guards at Right Mart that night. So I mean, I guess there's gotta be some accountability there for what happened. Who's basically just getting out of Dodge. He's heading off to the Dominican Republic, but while he's doing so, he's packing up. He kind of feels like somebody might be in his apartment.
I'm a security guard. I kill people every fucking day.
Then he gets a turkey carver in the gut, and then John Carver just goes right ahead and decapitates him with a wire. And leaving with a little souvenir. Bye-bye, kitty. Sorry about that. Oh, wait, he forgot to feed you. No problem. Uncle John's gotcha. That's a good kitty. I do appreciate, though, the realistic portrayal of a cat's actual priorities after seeing their owner brutally murdered. Did your theater also clap during this part? Because mine definitely did. And John then shows us his progress on the dinner table. One more guest to add to the fun, which, by the way, is a damn good Tim Dillon prop head. Then as Jess is going over the backup footage in her dad's office, Ryan then drives by and notices that Bobby's car is out in front of Jess's house, which, yeah, to say the least, he is not too happy about. On top of that, Jess is feeling a little sketchy now about Ryan because she sees him talking to a security guard. So why does that mean that he might be murdering people? Because he's good at making new friends? Well, anyways, then the group decides to go over who they think is the most likely suspect together inside of the school's cosmetology classroom or whatever. But then Jess gets a call from Ryan. She ignores it, and we cut to Ryan, who's in full John Carver getup. The eerie music kicks in, and apparently he's on the Right Mart Mayflower float in the parade. This part, of course, makes Ryan either an even stronger red herring in the movie, or the movie's playing a little reverse psychology and making it so obvious that he might be the killer that we accidentally disregard him altogether, when in reality, it was just right under our nose. But all right, enough wasting time. Carver has got some more folks that he needs to check off his list. So we head south to Hanover South, where Captain Dickhead here, who we heard Evan punched in the past, and then they ran into each other at the Right Mart thing, but him and his cheerleader girlfriend head off for a little trampoline showtime. And as she's showing him her new routine with a kinky little twist, Carver gives us a kill that I always think is just a hell of a good time, snapping this guy's neck all the way around, which reminds me of those fun kills in Freddy vs. Jason, where the other jock gets killed in the cornfield, and of course, Axel's kill in Friday the 13th, the final chapter. But hey man, the show's over here. No, not that way. No, turn around this way. Damn it, too late. But with this guy, John Carver especially wanted to kill him because he's the one who started the riot. Well, at least according to Jess, which she tells the sheriff at the station. By the way, what in the pee-wee football are these football jerseys they made these guys wear? Inside the school though, Gabby and Evan then get ambushed by John Carver, who then puts them into a nice little chloroform nap. Because apparently John Carver's main target here is Jess, but it's a little confusing, I will admit, at first, why he doesn't just go ahead and kill Gabby and Evan as well, I guess, but I'll tell you why he does that in a minute. John Carver then uses Gabby's cell phone to lure in Jess, which I can't lie, starts a fun little cat and mouse sequence. Back in the cosmetology class or whatever, Jess hides in the mass display of mannequin heads. Seriously though, how much did the school spend on these mannequins? There's like 100 of these damn things, but at least makes for a good hiding spot, I guess. After making way too much noise though, Jess then really pisses Carver off with some hairspray in the face, which allows her to get away. But hey, after the cops show up, we finally get to find out what Ryan was doing talking to that security guard. We have proof, man. Time to finally confess that you are the killer.
I honestly hope you make a better picture than you do a detective. No, I walked off with him because we were getting addies.
Oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. Why are we making such a big deal out of this again? Hey, but at least during this scene, we get to meet Yulia's dad, this Russian mob boss guy. Scuba, you got some balls, dude, for dating a girl with that kind of a dad.
Yulia, come.
Dad, just tell me where we're going.
Florida.
And yeah, it's probably a good idea. A Russian gangster, yeah, would probably know how to avoid getting killed. The rest of you might want to follow him, but not home though, because going home, that whole thing, that doesn't really go so well for them. Back at Yulia's house, Dad then just gets sniped. Then Yulia gets those corn holder thingies right in the ear, which is definitely a fun one though, and one that they used a lot in the marketing for the movie. And right on FaceTime too. Bye-bye. But the finishing blow happens after Scuba and Jess show up with a gun. Then Scuba forgets to take the safety off the gun, and then Yulia just gets tossed onto this buzzsaw, which unfortunately her parents just happen to be renovating the house at this time. So yeah, kind of just bad luck in a way. But don't miss this key little moment. It happens really fast. But if you look closely at John Carver's phone, you can see in the video that the camera's panning around the dinner table, showing the different people at the table. So this was either a pre-recorded video, or if it's a live feed, that has to mean that there's probably multiple killers. After all this, we head back to the Wright house where the remaining survivors basically plan to use some of the others for bait at the annual Plymouth Thanksgiving parade. Because yeah, going to a parade where a ton of people will be also dressed up as John Carver won't be confusing at all. Okay, cool guys.
Tomorrow, John Carver is going to go down.
And John Carver gives no shits at the parade about being sneaky at all, because he just goes ahead and cuts the turkey's head off. And why him? Well, earlier in the movie at the police station, Jess showed us that a kid named Lionel was on the surveillance footage and is always the turkey, I guess, in the parade, apparently. But yeah, this scene's fun. It is just pure chaos. Carver's tossing tear gas all over the place. This guy gets a piece of the boat through his head, then looking like he's next to De Niro in Heat, in a great clown mask, by the way. He puts Thomas, Jess, and Scuba to sleep with a tranquilizer, then drives off to have a little more Thanksgiving fun, which leads us to believe this killer's got a serious motive, because he doesn't want to kill everybody quickly. Some people in particular, he wants to draw it out and make them as miserable as possible before ending it. And if you weren't already having fun with the Thanksgiving tropes in this movie, well, you are in for a lot more coming up. Kathleen here wakes up as John's lathering her in butter, salt, pepper, you know, all those essential herbs and spices for a nice little Thanksgiving turkey, then turns on this massive commercial oven, which, uh-oh, Kathleen, this could not be good for you. Kathleen agrees, so when Carver's not looking, she just goes ahead and tries to escape, which then starts like a nice little cat and mouse moment. I like it. Not only do I love the idea to burn half of Carver's mask accidentally, which looks badass, but it shows you how Eli Roth can definitely create some great tension at this point in his career. I also like the fact that we get to see a little bit more of Carver's lair here. I think that's a cool little aspect of this part. It's kind of like when we get to see Jason's Love Shack in Friday the 13th Part 2. Speaking of Friday Part 2, the pitchforks here are also a nice little parallel between the two movies. But the hide and go seek games come to an end when John makes a hell of a throw with the pitchfork into her back. And all right, into the cooker she goes. And this is brutal, man. I mean, seeing a human get cooked alive is a crazy scene to see, but I do love that moment when right at the end of the scene, the little thermometer thing pops up to let you know that it's ready. This movie just blends the brutality with the funny moments in this movie, I just think so well, in my opinion. I love it. So what's Carver's plan next? Well, the cops notice that John's gonna live stream this dinner table scene and they think they've tracked the location. The Popo, though, has realized it was just a trick, and Carver's at least delayed them a little bit by sending them to the wrong cell phone, which is live streaming the actual live stream. And yep, it's dinner time as John reveals that he cooked up Kathleen instead of a turkey this year. I'm just impressed that everyone can hold their stomach together because this is some nasty shit. Oh wait, never mind. And if you're wondering why they're all kept alive and they're all brought here to the dinner table, John goes ahead and explains that they're all technically like these VIPs. They got the VIP treatment at Right Mart when they got to go in a little bit early, so he's gonna make their deaths a little more special. And up next, joining Kathleen and the others is going to be Evan, because Evan was the one who posted the first video that went viral about the incident. He gets his head crushed with a meat tenderizer, and somehow this live stream's not taken down, but all right. And then just before Thomas gets it, Scuba and Jess then escape with that little ring thing that the other guy gave them. It's the ring that the older guy who hangs around the high schoolers gave to Jess right before the parade. He said it was his dad's good luck charm in Iraq. But a little confusing how she knew it shot out like this little secret agent spike thing. But anyways, as they're on their way out, Scuba gets slashed in the arm, but does give Jess just enough time to get away. Jess then makes her way out of the forest and finds the sheriff on the ground next to his patrol car, bloody and either knocked out or dead. I don't know, she doesn't really check. Then Jess notices John Carver walk into the warehouse where the floats are being stored from the parade. Jess at this point has basically had enough. She's like, all right, we're gonna end this thing. So she goes ahead, grabs the sheriff's gun, and just goes inside after John, where she finds Bobby taking off the mask, definitely looking pretty suspicious and also exhausted on top of that. The sheriff then surprises Jess, takes the gun, and then Jess goes outside, and then we hear some gunshots inside. Then the sheriff comes out and says he thinks he shot him. Then backup arrives, and then they also find Bobby's cell phone, who's also still logged into the John Carver account. So yeah, that's not really all that good for Bobby's defense. They still haven't found Bobby yet, though, because he fled the scene. And then the detective here tells Jess that her dad, Gabby, and Scuba are all alive and they're at the hospital. But before Jess heads to the hospital, she kind of just says, okay, guys, let's relax for a minute. I just need a minute to just take all of this in because this has been crazy. While she's regrouping a bit, she starts picking some of the burrs out of her pants, and then when Sheriff Newland comes back in, we get a hint that this could be the biggest plot twist in the movie. When Jess notices the sheriff has the same burrs in his shoes and pants from when she was being chased through the forest after the dinner table scene, followed by the flashback of something the sheriff said earlier in the movie.
It's about the details. Small mistakes, that's how they get caught.
The sheriff then realizes what made Jess act so weird all of a sudden, and then gives us the big reveal of who John Carver really is.
If only you'd been stuck on the fence a second longer.
And the sheriff even admits that he basically fumbled the ball on the 1 yard line because, yeah, buddy, you kind of did. And then he also gives us a description of how he was going to plan to frame Bobby this entire time, who he clearly thought was the perfect suspect with a clear possible motive. He drugged him, dressed him up, and put him in his trunk for the setup. But then Bobby found the tire iron in the back of his car and then knocked him over the head and knocked him out. So when Jess found the sheriff knocked out next to his patrol car, he was actually hurt and knocked out. But then he woke up and saw Jess heading towards Bobby, which pointed him in the right direction, which is part of the reason why he kept Jess alive this long. He needed her not only to frame Bobby, but also to be a key witness, helping to put Bobby away for good and let him get away with everything. Also, Jess and Bobby helped identify some of who John Carver's next targets should be at the police station earlier in the movie as they went over who was who on the surveillance footage.
I know that guy. He goes to Hanover South. I mean, she's probably a cheerleader.
That's great, Bobby. Thank you.
But of course, the big question is, why does Sheriff Newland want to kill everybody that was involved with everything that happened at Right Mart the year before? Well, he tells us that after his wife left him, Amanda helped put his life back together. They eventually fell in love, and she was going to leave her husband Mitch so they could be together. If you remember, Amanda's the flirty lady from the opening dinner scene who got ran over by the shopping carts and then had her scalp ripped off. Yeah, definitely something. If you saw that, that would probably send you over the edge. But not only that, through an ultrasound picture he has on the walls of his lair next to his targets, Amanda was also pregnant with Newland's baby. So if Sheriff Newland's the killer, so how did he beat Jess back to the warehouse after that whole dinner table scene? Then change his clothes and get hit in the head by Bobby? Also, the attacks at the school. How was Newland outside with everyone, then able to change, go back inside, capture Gabby and Evan, then get sprayed in the face by the hairspray, and then be outside afterwards with the other police, basically just looking fresh as a daisy? These are just some possible hints that he might not be working alone. But anyways, this is Thanksgiving and all, and before something bad happens to Jess, she wants to tell somebody this year what she's thankful for.
Wait, I didn't get to tell you what I was thankful for.
What are you thankful for?
The service in here.
Which shows us that technology isn't just used to make horrible, violent riots go viral on YouTube. You can also catch some killers with it too, and, go viral at the same time, which is nice. Like, comment, and subscribe, right, guys? So you might be asking yourself, how did she have a cell phone on her? Newland definitely took that away before the dinner table scene. Well, you might remember Jess noticing Bobby's phone in an evidence bag just before the sheriff walked out of the room. She must have had this feeling like something just wasn't right. But anyways, Jess still has to somehow get out of this whole situation, because if you remember correctly, like, everyone that can help her in this situation has basically left and gone to the hospital. But right as Newland goes to inject Jess with, I guess, a lethal dose of drugs, which is a weird, awkward way to try to kill somebody, but then Bobby shoots him through the window. But of course, makes the common horror movie mistake and doesn't check to see if the dude is actually dead. The sheriff eventually gets up, of course, and stops Bobby and Jess as they try to get away. But then, taking things back to when Jess told us earlier, pretty much the only gun she knows how to use is a musket because of her dad, she puts that experience to good use here.
Hey, Sheriff! You were right! No leftovers!
Which does kind of have a little bit of a Halloween 2 vibe to it, a little bit. Of course, we don't get the whole fire walk scene like we do in Halloween 2, but I get it, that wouldn't have fit in this movie. And the next morning, the firefighters basically say they can't find anybody, but don't worry about it. There's no way anybody survived because this entire place was just eviscerated by this fire. And yep, that smells like a sequel setup, which Eli Roth has confirmed has been greenlit by Sony and will happen. I did kind of laugh a little when they zoomed in on the masked firefighters walking away suspiciously. It made me think of Halloween Resurrection, how they retconned that great ending to H2O by saying that Michael Myers stole a paramedic's outfit and escaped the scene during the chaos. You never know, maybe that's how Newland gets away here and comes back in the sequel. And the movie ends with Jess having a bad dream about being attacked by an extra crispy Patrick Dempsey. So Thanksgiving is kind of the slasher movie that Eli Roth always wanted to make. He'd been a fan of slashers his entire life and always dreamt of making a slasher, inspired by movies like Scream, like some of the other iconic slashers in the genre. And this movie definitely does a good job blending some of those. Has some Scream vibes to it, has some I Know What You Did Last Summer vibes to it as well, definitely. Personally, I've been a big fan of Eli Roth's work ever since the first Hostel movie. Yeah, some of his movies are not that great, but I love the first Hostel especially. I think that movie has some of the best revenge moments towards the end in all of horror without a doubt. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I think this movie does a great job blending the humor and the gore. Yeah, some of the stuff in this movie is silly, is kind of ridiculous, and definitely is over the top, especially some of the kills and stuff. But just blending that brutality, that extreme gore, that violence, just the bloodiness of this movie, but also doing a great job just making you laugh, making you say, holy shit, that just happened, and keeping it light, but also kind of, a little bit tense and a little bit scary at times too. And yeah, of course, the kills in this movie are really damn good. Of course, like in movies like Terrifier and some other things like that, you get a lot of gore, but in this movie, yes, there's some drawn out torture gore without a doubt, and especially the oven scene and some other stuff like that. I mean, it's not super drawn out, but the gore in this movie, a lot of it, I think is very creative. It's pulled off really well. Yeah, we get some CGI that's not that great, like that Tim Dillon scene when he gets the carver in his stomach. You see a little bit of CGI blood that looks a little bit weird, but some of the stuff here is practical, and it just, overall, the gore, I mean, it's Eli Roth, so of course, but the gore, really damn good, and I love it in this movie. And yeah, technically the script in this movie was written by Jeff Rendell, but I'm sure Eli Roth had some input in it. I mean, it feels like an Eli Roth script. It's very like frat boy type of humor at times. But like I said earlier, like this movie, that is what it is trying to do. It's trying to be a fun slasher movie that you can take a group of friends to and just have a good time and kind of be shocked in certain scenes, have some fun cat and mouse moments. But yeah, the script is not great in this movie by any means, but I don't really think that holds this movie back that much. I do also like some of the casting in this movie. Patrick Dempsey, I think, is great in this movie, and surprisingly, we don't get to see much of him, but Tim Dillon is awesome in this movie as well. You know who doesn't get enough love is Rick Hoffman. He's solid in this as the dad, Thomas Wright. He's also great in the first Hostel, but I'm really hoping we see more of him in the sequel. Really though, outside of them and maybe, one or two other characters in this movie though, most of the characters, especially the core group of young teenagers that we're following, are very forgettable, which is something that this movie doesn't do that well. I mean, you look at a movie like Scream, the young characters in that movie, so memorable. And yeah, that's probably too high of a bar. That's probably not fair for this movie, but still, it's something to mention because this movie is clearly inspired by a movie like Scream. But yeah, the characters are not that great. Also, our final girl that we follow in this movie, I think is good, but like I said, not great. I mean, she's not a final girl that's even on the level of a Sidney Prescott by any means. Like I said, she's good. I like her, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing her in the sequel for this movie. But still, I mean, there's just something about her that's not quite on that level. Not even on the level of maybe like a Jennifer Love Hewitt or anything like that. But still, good, okay. But she doesn't have a lot of personality. And if she's in the sequel, hopefully kind of similar to what they did with Sienna from Terrifier 2 to Terrifier 3, hopefully they just take her character up a notch and just do a better job of letting us get to know her some more. To me, though, Thanksgiving is just a hell of a lot of fun. Eli Roth does a great job leaning into the tropes of the holiday, which is definitely and was definitely a holiday we needed a great slasher, a great villain for. It's one of the holidays we just do not have enough great horror movies built around the tropes of Thanksgiving, which is very much needed. Me personally too, though, I will always be a sucker for this whodunit type of a slasher. I don't know what it is. I like that aspect of the story while we're following a slasher movie. It's just a lot of fun for me, especially when you mix in some damn good gore. And that's what this is. And I think personally, this movie holds up really well 1 year later. I actually like this movie even more the more I watch it, which is kind of weird because typically with a whodunit, sometimes you lose a little bit because you already know what the reveal is going to be. But no, I just appreciate some of the humor and a lot of the gore and just the other small aspects of this movie the more I watch it. Yeah. So yeah, I am a huge fan of Thanksgiving. I really enjoyed this movie, and hopefully we do get that sequel in 2025 or 2026. But anyways, there you go, everybody. That is Thanksgiving Explained. If you want some more content from me right now, go ahead and check out one of these videos next to me. If you don't want to miss future content, the best way to do that is to subscribe. That way you get notified when I post future videos. But anyways, everybody, again, thanks for watching. My name is Matt, and I will talk to you in the next one.